and welcome to another midday recipe. So I am going to be here every day at midday. Well, the Vegan Chef School are going to be here every day at midday sharing a recipe with you. So it's not just going to be me. I've actually asked some of our graduates, some of our students to do live recipes with you as well. So next week we'll have a few of those guys doing live recipes for you from their home. Same time, midday, and you know, they have like really awesome creative recipes to share. So the deal is that I can have a look on here on my computer and see the questions that you guys are shouting through to me through the internet. So, you know, ask me questions as we go. I will answer any questions that you have either about the recipe that we're making today or about anything to do with food, basically. You can ask me other questions like that are non-food related, but really like food is the only thing that I know about. So let's try for the food questions, please. I'm just going to get the live up on here so that I can see your questions and, you know, if you want to shout hello to me. But we also have someone helping us out today who will be able to see all those questions that I missed, because, you know, if you guys get a bit chatty, which is awesome, by the way, you know, sometimes I can't see all of your questions because they go off the screen. So let's get this up, and let's also check if today I'm sideways or the right way around, because that does occasionally happen. Right, okay, let's get to the live. There we are. So today, as you can see, we're making a rhubarb crumble. So this is a recipe that was requested. Yes, I'm the right way round. That's a really good start. That's a really good start. So, oh, Virginia, thank you for joining us. And Laura, hello. Okay, so with this recipe, I asked you guys what you would like me to make with the rhubarb that we got from the allotment. And, you know, when you get a fruit or a vegetable from allotment, it's a really special thing. And you really want to make something wonderful with it. And you know, celebrate it. So my mum actually, she suggested that I make a rhubarb crumble, and of course, you know, I'm gonna go with what my mum says. By the way, hello mum. And Kim has said hello from Melbourne, Australia, and Virginia, you made the quinoa one-pot curry last night. It was simple and lovely when hot, but cold it lost its curry flavour. Oh, it might be better in a few days' time. So anything that's wet, that has spices in it, it can actually get better because all of those spices merge together. Gloria is joined. Hello Gloria. We actually have Jeff behind the camera today. So he just waved a hello to you. Pam, hello from South Africa. Have never eaten rhubarb before. Okay, so rhubarb is quite a British, is it fruit or a vegetable? It's a stalk. It's a stalk. What is it? Is it a fruit or vegetable?
It's a fruitable.
It's a fruitable, apparently. So let me just get a leaf and I can show you. Because, you know, if you've never had rhubarb before, you might wonder what it is that we're talking about. So rhubarb, I took the stalks, the leaves off earlier to prepare for this, but this is what they look like coming out the ground. Really beautiful pink stalks and these beautiful leaves. Unfortunately, you can't eat these leaves because they're poisonous. And so at the school, we often talk to our students about how can we use all the bits and pieces that are usually left over, and we do things called rescue recipes, where the students create recipes just based on the bits and pieces that we throw away, you know, like the ends of onions, the tops of carrots, you know, the peelings, that type of thing. And it's a really great thing to do. Don't do it with these though. Do not do it with these. These are poisonous. So, I mean, I think that they could just go into the compost. They'll be all right for that.
Yeah,
Maybe
totally.
Great for that. So that's the only place they're going to go. So this is the bit that we want to cook with. So just before we get started on the recipe, I need to let you know that there is a rainbow somewhere in here today, and you guys have to figure out where it is. If there are any kids watching, I want you to get in there quick before the adults get there, okay? So if we get to like half time, so say in about 10 minutes, And none of the kids have come forward and said where the rainbow is, and we can pass it over to the adults and you can have a go. So they're the rules. And on to today's recipe. So my commitment to you guys is that when I teach you a recipe, I don't only teach you a recipe. I also teach you how to think more like a chef. So today, in today's recipe, we've got two really good other elements to teach you. So let's get going. Now with our rhubarb crumble, I like to use a glass bowl. With my crumbles, I always like to use a glass bowl, and that's because once we put in the filling, you know, the rhubarb and the sugar, it's going to be down here, and I want to be able to see it bubbling away. So if you have a glass bowl, you can do that. If you have a bowl that you can't see through, obviously you can't see that, because it really does, you know, it tells you that the fruit is breaking down, that it's going to be soft, and that's what we want to see. So we're going to be using a glass bowl. Ingrid, hello, thank you for joining us, and Chaz as well. So the first thing that we're going to pop into our bowl is our rhubarb, and we're just going to roughly cut it so that it is about 2 centimetres wide, something like that. So I always think that when you're making a crumble, you want to cut the fruit into bite-sized pieces, because you know you don't want to be eating rhubarb with a knife and fork. You want to be eating it just with a spoon, and you know, so none is like dangling off the end of it, because you know that doesn't look that great. So we're just going to roughly chop this into 2 centimetre chunks. It doesn't have to be exact, don't worry about that too much. And we can just pop it straight into the bowl. So, the amount of rhubarb that we've got in here today is about 250 grams. And you will see on the board here, I have given, let me just come around here and I'll explain this so that you can read it as we go. Right, here is our ratios for the crumble. So we've got 1 part sugar to 5 parts rhubarb. We've got 3 parts of dry ingredient, 1 part fat and 1 part sugar. So this is a really good ratio for you guys to use, because you know you might have a different amount of rhubarb. You might be feeding more people, you might be feeding less people. You know, so this can be a flexible way of you just kind of like working it out yourself. And so here, with our 1 part sugar to 5 parts rhubarb, what that means for us with my recipes, we've got 250 grams of rhubarb. And so 1 part of that will be 50 grams of coconut sugar. So that's the amount of sugar that we're going to put in. So let me go and do that. So we've got 50 grams of coconut sugar here. So I really like using coconut sugar. You can use any sugar that you want really. Coconut sugar, I find it really caramelly, so it has more of a flavour than say white sugar does. And it's not as sweet, and I am well known for preferring things that are bitter and sour anyway, so I don't like loads of sweetness in my food. So the coconut sugar really suits me very well. This is the coconut sugar that I use. You can buy this off Amazon or other health food shops online at the moment, so you don't need to go to a supermarket to buy this. And in fact, with loads of dry store ingredients, you can just buy them online and delivered to you, which is great at the moment. So we've got 50 grams in there. And then the next ingredient, which you guys probably aren't expecting, is this. In my magic little silver parcel here, which is rosemary. So you wouldn't necessarily think of putting rosemary into a sweet dish, but I love rosemary in sweet dishes. One of my students for a supper club, he actually made a pine nut creme with a rosemary caramel. Oh my god, it was amazing. It was really amazing. So rosemary you can use in sweet dishes. You can also just use it as a tea. Just rosemary with hot water is really lovely. And I'm sure that the naturopath Ashley that we work with can probably tell us, you know, what the properties are of it. It's probably healing. It's healing for you in some way, But also, a lot of us have this in our garden. You know, in the UK, like it grows abundantly It grows very, very well wherever. You don't need to really look after it very much. So that's a really, really good one to use. So we're going to put some of that into our recipe today. And so, you know, this is the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is pairing flavours. So once you figure out how you can pair flavours in a more interesting way, it can really, really up your game when it comes to cooking. So it's really useful to look for different and interesting flavour pairings and then introduce those into your food. So along here today I've listed all of the different flavours that go with rhubarb. And so I decided to pick out a couple that I wanted to use today. And so I decided on almond, because I'm going to be using almond flour in the top, in the crumbly bit, because I've got it in my cupboard to use up. And that's one thing that I really, really urge you guys to do, is to look in your cupboards and see what you can use, because these are really flexible recipes. So you can use, you know, other flours that you have in the cupboard. You can use chopped nuts, you know, that type of thing, just to use it up, so you don't have to go out buying anything. And so with this, you know, I found that almond, you know, is something that I wanted to use. And then I looked for an ingredient that went with rhubarb, but it also went with almond. And so this is what I call the triad of flavours. So if you can find these three flavours that all go together and have them in one dish, then you'll have a really accomplished dish. You know, all the flavours will really marry together. They won't be fighting against each other either, you know, which is great, which is really, really wonderful. And so in this list, we also have some other flavours that go really well together. So say for example, we have ginger and we have orange. Really, really classic combination. If you put those into your crumble with the rhubarb, all of those flavours are going to go really, really well together. And then we've also got strawberry and vanilla. Classic combination. Strawberry and vanilla go really, really well with rhubarb. So how are we going to put them into our dish? So say for example, you know, at the top here we've got anise. So anise is present in a lot of different ingredients, but for something like a crumble, I would use fennel seed. You know, that's got that anise flavour in it. So the fennel seed you can either put in the top or the bottom. Maybe because, you know, you've got the crunchiness of the seed, it would be better to go in the top. That would be lovely. We've also got juniper berries. So of course, you know, we know juniper berries from gin. Rhubarb gin, hence, you know, these flavours go together. So it's kind of like seeing those different connections. And these you can crush up. They won't crush up to a fine powder in the same way that black pepper will. There'll still be some bits and it gets a bit sticky, but that's fine. So that could either go in the top or the bottom. But again, you know, if you want the bottom of the crumble to be quite smooth and soft, then probably put it in the top. So we've got those. We've got lavender. So lavender, another kind of quite unexpected flavour that we're not used to using. If you don't have something like this, you can just use lavender tea bags. Just open them up and actually use the lavender that's in them. But use it sparingly because it is quite a strong flavour. And some people don't really like those fragrant flavours, you know, like lavender and rosemary in food. So do be careful with that, but it's a really nice one to experiment with, and I actually made some lavender shortbread that is very, very lovely, very delicate floral flavours. We also have some just strawberry powder. You know, with something like this, you could actually add fresh strawberries to the bottom, which would be lovely. You just have to bear in mind that that's going to create like quite a lot of liquid. So, you know, don't put like too many in the bottom there. I don't have fresh strawberries here. I'm not going to go out and get some. So this is the best that I could do to represent strawberry. We also have some orange blossom flavouring, which is very, very lovely. But you could just use something like orange zest in there. Some orange zest, some grated orange zest would be lovely. If you're going to pair it with the ginger, you could just put ground ginger in the top. Really, really lovely combination. And we've got some vanilla paste. Again, you know, like the vanilla and the strawberry together with the rhubarb, really, really lovely. You know, and those are probably flavours that would be more like kid friendly as well, so that might be a good one to go for with the kids. Okay, so we're going to put rosemary into ours, so I would just chop it up as finely as I can. And you guys feel free to ask questions if you want to. So, yeah, so this rosemary, as you can see, it's in this foil here. So the reason why is because if you wrap your herbs, well, every herb apart from basil, I think, or you know, those delicate herbs, if you wrap them in foil, then they last much, much longer in the fridge. You know, they come in those plastic packets and they don't last very long in there. They start to sweat. You know, and you know, with something like rosemary, you only use a little bit at a time, so it's quite unlikely that you'll use all of that plastic packet before it starts getting all sweaty and horrible. So, and I think at the moment we should all be very, very mindful of food waste and just making things last as long as they can, you know, using up all the ends and just making sure that stuff doesn't go off. We really want to use all of that. Karis, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so we've got our top there. That's our bottom there. This is our bottom. And now we'll go on to the top. I'll just get rid of this and have some tea. Okay, so now onto the top. So we have some oats here. And these oats are from one of my favourite companies, Rhubarb. And one of the reasons why I do love them is because you can buy bloody great big sacks like this, you know, and they're in paper, which is great, grown in the UK, manufactured in the UK, processed in the UK, sent to me in the UK, you know, and that's really, really wonderful. They're such a really good company. These ones are organic as well. Not all of their products are organic, but quite a lot of them are, and I think that they're trying to move over into being completely organic. So you can buy this online. They are inundated with orders at the moment, but you can still order from them, and things might just take a little bit longer to get to you. So normally it takes maybe 2 days. At the moment it takes maybe 5 days. So Rhubarb, they do lots of different products, lots of beans, lots of seeds. You can buy chia seeds from them, UK chia seeds, it's amazing. You can buy quinoa. I rant about, you know, my favourite ingredients of the year, which were the smoked quinoa from Rhubarb and also their fava bean umami paste. So for any real foodies out there, real chefy people, the fava bean umami paste is definitely one you should check out. So that's who our oats are from. And then we've got some ground almonds. So these are our dry ingredients, and as you will see from here, we want 3 parts of dry ingredients, but that could be a mixture of things, you know, and I'm mixing it up a bit today because I want a bit more texture in the top. If it was just the almond flour, you wouldn't get so much texture, but I really like that OT texture. And also it's going to make it you know, a really nice golden colour, so that's why I have paired them. You don't need to, just as long as you've got well, with it, in this case 150 grams, so you have to make it up to 150 grams. So I've got 100 grams here, which was this is what the bag is, which is super helpful, and 50 grams of my oats here. Let me just get a bowl to put that into. Helping you out with the rainbow finding there, if you haven't seen it yet. Oh, there's a question. What kind of oats? What kind of oats? So these are just rolled. These are rolled oats. So this is a really, really good thing to point out, so I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Virginia. There are lots of different types of oats. There's porridge oats, there's steel cut oats, there's rolled oats, and basically what that means is that they're processed in a different way and they can be finer or chunkier. So porridge oats are generally quite powdery. So if you think about, you know, the purpose of porridge oats, it's so that they have, you know, water or milk on them and they can fall apart fairly easily. So they're quite powdery and they're great for things like, so if you want to make like a sausage mix or like a burger mix, they're really great at like holding everything together because they're quite fine. But if you want to make something like a flapjack, then steel cut oats are really great because they're bigger, they're chunkier, there's more texture to them. These rolled oats are kind of somewhere in between. So we can use them, we use them for porridge, but you can also use them for recipes where you want a bit more texture. So these are kind of like halfway between the steel cut oats and the porridge oats. Okay, so we're just going to pop them into here, into a bowl. And so, you know, at this point you could add things like spices if you want, you know, dry spices are great in there, but we're actually going to add some almond extract because we've already got the almonds in here, but the almond flour doesn't have a huge amount of almondy flavour to it. And the reason why is because this almond flour is made with one type of almond, and then this flavouring is actually made with bitter almond, which has a lot more almond flavour to it, and then the bitterness is taken out of it. But we want to add this to our topping. And then we've got our fat. So this is the fat that we're using today, which is this margarine. You can also use something like a coconut oil, but it is better if you use a hard fat rather than a liquid fat. So, you know, you don't want to use something like a sunflower oil. We want it to be hard. So either a margarine or you could use a coconut oil. That's a really, really good hard fat to go for. And if you don't want that coconut flavour, then you can use refined coconut oil. I talked about that a bit yesterday in the emergency desserts live recipe that we did. So this is the one that we're going to be using today. And so 3 parts dry ingredient, 1 part fat. So we've got 50 grams of sunflower spread in there. And then we've got our sugar, so again coconut sugar, and this is 1 part sugar, so 50 grams of sugar into there. And then we'll add a few drops of this. Ian, thank you for joining me. Okay, so a few drops of this. Always use the cap, because what will inevitably happen is if you just do it like that, then your hand will slip and, you know, yeah, you'll have like a whole bottle of almond essence in that, which we don't want. So use the cap. That's what it's there for. Well, it's probably not. That's probably not the reason why it's there. It's probably there to make sure the liquid doesn't come out, but you know. Okay, so we've got some almond essence in there. That's all of the ingredients that we need. Now, don't go and use a spoon because it's going to be quite difficult to mix all that up with a spoon. Get your hands involved. So this is a great one to make with kids because they get to be all messy, get stuff over their hands, and they absolutely love it. And it's a great way to get them involved in food and also to get them to eat the thing that you've made. Because quite often we find, like when we're teaching kids, that they will end up eating fruits and vegetables that the parents never thought that they would ever eat. So I'm just going to get my one hand involved here and keep showing you what I'm doing. So if you guys have any requests for recipes, then please do let me know. We've already had a few requests, you know, particularly for things that are in the back of your cupboard that you don't know what to do with. If you're wondering about like substitutions as well, because it would be great if we can get you guys using all the bits and pieces that you've got at home. So Virginia said, is it 50 grams of everything in the bowl? Your chart says 100 grams of almond flour. So I put 100 grams of almond flour and 50 grams of oats. Yeah, so it's 100 grams of almond flour and 50 grams of oats. Is that right on the chart?
100 grams of almond flour and 50 grams of oats.
Yeah, 100 grams of almond flour, 50 grams of oats, 150 grams in total of dry ingredients. So that's the 3 parts of the dry ingredients that we need. Okay, so basically what we're looking for with a crumble top is, surprise, surprise, it's a bit crumbly. So you don't want it to be like one homogeneous mass that all like sticks together. We don't want that. We want it to be a bit crumbly. Yvonne, you've got one in the oven now. Amazing, amazing. And is it a rhubarb crumble? Is it a rhubarb, rosemary and almond crumble? Because if so, that's really freaky. That's really freaky. Just realised butter not dry. What does that mean, Virginia?
Butter doesn't count as part of the dry ingredients.
Ah, okay. Okay, so now we're ready to pop the top onto the bottom. So I'm just going to leave this actually quite loose. And what that will mean is that the rhubarb can breathe a bit. It's not going to be completely smothered, so it's not going to go into mush. We want a little bit of texture still left in there. So you made a simple one using my own rhubarb from the garden. Oh my god! That's freaky. That is freaky. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, like we're so lucky to have this rhubarb coming through at the moment. I think it's quite early. We were just talking about that this morning. But it's an absolute joy to experience fruit and veg in this way. I think, you know, when we have been used to like going to the supermarket, but then you get something like a veg box, or you know, you have an allotment, it really changes your relationship with your food. You feel, you know, like it's a celebration when you get it, and it's much more special. So you do want to treat it in a really good way and make something really awesome with it. And this is a great way to use rhubarb. So Laura says, I always wanted to make vegan burgers, but I think it may be too difficult. Ha! Okay, so that could be a recipe that we'll do next week. I have a really amazing burger recipe. One of my friends said to me that he wanted a veggie burger that bit back, one that didn't just, you know, go all floppy, because when you eat a burger, if it's soft, then inevitably what happens is you bite into it and it just goes out the sides. Or you try and fry it and it falls apart, you know, and that's just, yeah, really annoying. So I developed a burger recipe that is very solid. You can even put it on the barbecue. So let's do that next week. Laura, that one's for you. Okay, so now we're going to pop that in the oven. Ta-da! As if by magic, it's ready. Oh, and who's eating it as well? There's a spoon in there and a bit of it missing. So let me just wash my hands, or hands. So with that recipe, with that crumble, I cooked it at, I think about 180 degrees, and it cooked for about half an hour. And as I was saying earlier, you know, I could see along here that it was bubbling, which was great. So I could see if the fruit was being cooked and if it was softening. And then, you know, I could see on the top that this was browning really quite well. And that's the thing, like with oats and oat flour, whenever you use it, what you bake, it will brown very well. But of course you don't want it to brown too much to the point where it looks like it's burnt. So I cooked it for about half an hour on the middle shelf, and then I just put it to a lower shelf for another 10 minutes and let it brown quite nicely. And I have to admit that when it came out of the oven, we did have to try it. So, but we discovered that actually having rhubarb crumble for breakfast is a really lovely thing. So that might have to be a new thing in this house. So with this crumble, let me have a little bit of it and then try and talk to you at the same time, because that's always fun. Because we've got the rhubarb in, because we've got the rosemary in there, that will just come through. Not with necessarily every mouthful, but just every now and again you'll get that burst of rosemary, and it tastes like autumn. Like it's so, and winter, you know, it's really like unctuous in that way, really cosy flavours in there. And then the almond really balances it out as well. It's not too sweet. I didn't want it to be too sweet, but of course if you want it to be sweeter, you can change that a bit yourself. Okay, so Pam said, balls as well as burgers, please. Mine are always a bit dense. So we will be talking about them too. So basically, like the burger recipe, we can actually just make into meatballs as well. And I know what you mean about them being a bit dense. Quite often with burger recipes, it's a bit like a paste that you put together, and then yeah, it's not great. But I think that we can easily make the burgers into meatballs and do that. Seymour's jackfruit recipes would be great. Cool, okay. Yes, jackfruit recipes we can definitely do. I have 1 can of jackfruit, but that might be enough to do a recipe with. We also have banana blossom, so maybe we could do those at the same time, talk about banana blossom and jackfruit at the same time, because they are very similar, and we can use them in similar ways. So let's do that. Please do keep asking questions and requesting recipes and letting me know what you've got in the back of your cupboard, and let's get you guys, you know, using up all those bits and pieces. Let's see if we can find the most random ingredient that you guys have out there in the back of your cupboard, and that will be a real challenge for me to make a recipe with it or to advise you on a recipe for it. Did anybody find the rainbow today? The rainbow? Can you see it? Anywhere? There's a rainbow somewhere around here. I don't know where it might be. Any suggestions? No? Deborah, yes, banana blossom. I have a tin and never used it before. Okay, yeah, that is one of those things that people do buy and then they don't know what to do with. And of course, now is a really, really great time for us to be using up those things. I'm definitely going into the back of my cupboard because, you know, although I do have like, you know, quite a lot of like bits and pieces, there are things that, you know, I haven't used in a long time, and I'm just like trying to figure out, you know, what can we do with this, how can we make good meals with it, and that type of thing. So nobody got the rainbow for today. Nobody got the rainbow for today, and I'll show you where it is. So this is today's rainbow, and I don't know if you can just see what is at the end of the rainbow. So I'll come around and show it to you. There we go. And at the end of our rainbow is a pot, but it's not a pot of gold, it's a pot of hummus. Yeah, that was my vegan joke for the day, because, you know, we always have to have hummus. So thank you for joining me today. Please do join the community hub. Is the crumble good for brunch? Let's find out. Yeah, I think that's definitely what we're going to eat now. But yeah, please do join the community hub. We've created a group for people to come and share their food and ask questions, and, you know, we can do lives and stuff like this. Oh, Deborah asks, I have a jar of molasses. What can I use these for? Okay, so in yesterday's class, we talked about emergency desserts, and I made a ginger cake nice cream. So basically, that was frozen bananas, molasses, loads of ground ginger and a bit of cinnamon, and just blend it, and oh my god, it's divine. Really, really divine. So, yeah, so molasses you can use for something like that. But, you know, molasses, it does last a long time, and you only need like a little bit at a time. But in that banana ice cream recipe is really, really lovely. Of course, you know, you're not using a huge amount of it. The other thing I recommend you make is actually a ginger cake. Because if you make a ginger cake with molasses, it adds like a really lovely depth to it. And what I call a dark sweetness. So rather than that light sweetness, it's dark sweetness with loads of like real lovely caramel notes in it, which is awesome. Really, really lovely. So please do join the community hub. It's our Facebook group. You can just click on the learn more button that's on our page, and good in gingerbread biscuits. Yes, yeah, exactly. Gingerbread biscuits, beautiful with molasses. Yeah, so please keep asking me questions, please keep requesting recipes and letting me know what you have in the back of your cupboard, and have a lovely day.